Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica Sofer, and here at Saturday Soundbites, we talk all things visibility strategy, marketing, advertising, public relations, branding, networking, and how to tie it all together. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about how you can incorporate podcasts. Now, if you're listening on our podcast, then I want you to hit subscribe right now so that you don't miss any of our amazing content. And if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you let us know and we will communicate with you and engage with you in the comments. And if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay, so that my guest and I can come back and connect with you there as well. And so, in talking about podcasts, on a podcast, we're going to talk about how it fits into your visibility strategy and how important it is to connect all the dots so that you're repurposing the content for multiple ways. And the guest I have for you today is an expert in this. He's actually the guy that got me started in this space. And so I'm super excited to bring up Chris Greenfield. He is joining us today. Hello.
Good morning, Veronica. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much. So Chris, I couldn't have started all of this without you guiding me through the process. And part of the reason why we connected so well in this space is that you knew what I was trying to do, and you didn't know what I wasn't asking. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, and you did. So kind of start us through the process and tell us a little bit how you even got in this space.
I'd been a podcast. I kind of fell into it, Veronica, and I'm going to work on not calling you Ronnie. So
Okay. And
I've
that's okay if
I've
you do.
I've known you for way too long to not mess up and say that. So
Yeah. Okay.
we've been in. I've been a podcast listener for probably well over a decade. I started listening to podcasts 2009, 2010. And most of those were, my interests at the time, firearms training, different things like that, instructional, uh, how to improve public speaking, stuff like that. That's what I was listening to. And a few years ago, I started my own coffee company. And I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to do a podcast on a certain subject or a different subject. I was like, this is my opportunity to finally do something that I've wanted to do for years. And I started a podcast. And that was as simple as downloading a program or signing up to a program called StreamYard. I believe that is what we're on currently,
Yep.
and lining up guests. And the nice thing about the podcast space is there typically isn't any shortage of guests. You can find a guest that will talk on almost any topic, and you can find a podcast on almost any topic. So if you're a new entrepreneur or you've been at it a while, or if you just want to tell stories or whatever, just relaying information, podcasts are a wonderful avenue, a great medium for you to use to convey that message to the public.
And there's some technical things that people might get overwhelmed with when they first think about it. If they're watching a recording like this, they might see headsets and microphones, and they're wondering about all the technical things. Should the technical stuff really stop you? Because there are lots of ways to do it simpler, and there's lots of ways to do it in a more complicated, in a studio way too.
I think the biggest hurdle on that is the sound quality,
Mm,
because the sound quality's got to be very, very good. Typically, to get a bunch of people to listen or even watch on YouTube or Facebook, you have to have good sound quality.
mhm.
Without good sound quality, and so you're looking at a financial investment of at least a couple $100 for a good microphone or a good headset. I'm talking to you on a gaming headset. It's got a pretty good. It works pretty well, but it's also limited to a certain range of recording quality. But it works typically for podcasts. A professional setup like you've got there. I did have, I believe when I first started podcasting, it was a Microtech headset, or not a Microtech headset, but a Microtech microphone that I just picked up off of Amazon. And Black Friday is a good time to pick stuff up like that.
Right.
Uh, then if you go into the video podcasting, kind of like what we're doing today, a decent HDMI camera that, records at least what, 19, let's see, 19 or 1080p. That's what we
Hmm.
want.
Hmm.
You can do 4K, but if you're using Facebook, it's going to get downgraded anyway. If you're on YouTube, most people are watching it on a phone, and they're really
Sure.
not going to get the 4K out of it. So splurging for the 4K video is unless you're Joe Rogan, and
Right.
then do the 4K video. But
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit out of the out of the ballpark for what most people need.
Yeah, yeah, and most people are using podcasts to either have a passion project or a passion topic that they're interested in, maybe gardening or maybe something really important to them, like parenting or something like that. And then the rest of the folks that are in this space, those online entrepreneurs, are really just trying to promote their brand and
Hmm.
share some of their content. So I think that there's a way to find the right fit for you and then grow into it because that's what we did, right? I mean, you gave
Right.
me some suggestions. We went, we started, and then we grew into it, and it was an evolution that was not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Using an iPhone as much as I'm an Android person myself, but using an iPhone and a good quality Bluetooth wireless microphone to record that audio uh, will make. I don't know if you can. I hear children screaming, so I'm just making sure that I don't.
Oh no, you're good. You're
If
good. You got to
everybody's
make sure that.
okay. Mom went to pick up Starbucks for everybody, but um, using an iPhone and a good wireless Bluetooth microphone to pick up the audio is more than enough to do most podcasts. More than
Mhm.
enough. If you start interviewing, then that's a little bit different. If it's just a one person show, then that's you can get away with a Bluetooth microphone and an iPhone for your video camera if you want to.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. No, I agree, and I've enjoyed some of those the content that I see that's done like that. I kind of feel like it's more organic, and I feel more connected to the people because it seems more authentic to me. So that doesn't phase me one bit, not at all. I think it's great.
Also, one thing I want to take note on, and this is one thing that we talked about when we first started and I don't really have it here, but your your environment, your backdrop, if you're doing a video podcast or a video cast of any sort, is very important. And how you set it up is part of your show's personality. And you've done a really good job there, Veronica.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always try to keep the family photo in there. And definitely our Hamilton poster that's autographed. People have actually messaged me and said, are those real autographs? I'm like, absolutely. We got it in New York. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It invites people into our space and it makes them feel a little more comfortable and connected with us. So we talked about the technical part, Chris, and this is the part that I really think the nuggets are at. And that is your expertise in helping people find the right space. So online, YouTube, it's all so grand, but there's a way to find your people. And I want you to tell us how you have helped others and how you figured out where your people are.
Well, you said it, YouTube. You know, YouTube is such a powerful tool because it's a suggestive search engine. And what that means is YouTube will look at the videos that a person is watching and they say, okay, the Veronica likes Broadway shows, she's an entrepreneur, she likes this, this, and this, and it will show you a variety of videos that fall into that subject. So that person that you're trying to find, that audience, as long as you're setting up your YouTube videos properly with the proper tags and proper descriptions and putting it out there, you're going to get suggested to the audience you want to find on YouTube. It's a fantastic uh, way of going about finding your audience. And, eventually, once you grow an audience on there, you start to actually earn income off of from YouTube sponsorships, whatever the case may be. We sponsor the company I work with now, Big Tex Ordnance. We sponsor two different podcasts uh, with directly with financial contributions. We sponsor two different YouTube channels. At this point, we're always looking to grow, and that one of our YouTube channels, that we sponsor has like 2.5 million subscribers.
Wow.
That's their full-time job. And when I say a full-time job, it's a full-time job for, I think, 7 to 8 individuals to produce that YouTube channel. And that is where our audience is. It's about going out and finding your audience no matter where they're at. And, currently we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, multiple channels on YouTube, multiple different, I think we have like 30 different influencers, if you will, on Instagram that we financially contribute to different means or send them product to test out and post about. And that right there, I think, is the biggest challenge for anybody is finding their audience. And if you do it for a podcaster, or you do it as a podcaster, you're going to get more downloads, more listens, and more subscribers.
Yeah. Wow. That blows my mind. So is that considered your marketing budget? Is it your advertising budget? Is that how that works? Because as a podcaster, I want to know how to connect with someone with those marketing dollars. And if I'm still finding my audience, I'm not quite there yet. What do I need to be doing to get there so that I'm attractive to someone like you who has those marketing dollars?
So first of all, you need to have a really good engagement for your audience.
Okay.
If you told me, if I was in the marketing space that you were in, and you said, "Hey, I have 1,000 listeners," and I'm like, "No, that's really not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a little bit more." But you're like, "But I get 250 comments on every episode." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And you have conversations and they're super engaged and we're talking about it and all this. So you've got 1,000 listeners and a good percentage of that is very engaged with what you do. Okay, cool. Well, now that really opens my eyes up and says, hey, Chris, maybe we should pursue that channel. Even though it's 1,000 listeners or 100 listeners, they're super active. One of our well, I guess 3 YouTube channels now that I think of it. One of our other YouTube channels, fantastic click-through rate to our website. If I'm looking for the word here, uh, the the percentage of people that click on his link and then buy is super high. It's ridiculously high. Typically, industry standards between 2 and 4% conversion rate.
Mhm.
There's the word I was looking for, that conversion rate. But his is like 35 to 45%. And
Wow.
so if it comes up, he calls and says, "Hey, I need this." Cool. Here you go. Here you go. Send it.
Right.
Because his listeners or his viewers are so engaged with what he's not necessarily selling, but the information he's relaying. And that is what I want. I want that really good base of listeners. But if I get one that's, sending 1,000 people and only 2% are actually clicking through, hey, that's industry standard. I understand that that's
Mhm.
what my
Mhm.
conversion rate looks like.
Mhm.
And I'm good with that as well, you
Mhm.
know? So
And how does a podcaster improve that? So I'm curious about what makes his conversion rate so high. Is you mentioned that people they like his content, but it's got to be more than content, right? There's something about the way he's presenting his show, whether it's a podcast or his videos. There must be something about the way he's doing it that's making people want to click through at least at that kind of level. So what do you think that is?
one, his videos are always very well done, very well edited. That's the baseline. It sounds good, video quality is good, it's consistent. He puts good, solid information out, and he's not pitchy. There's not a pitch.
Ah,
There's never
yeah.
a pitch. He's like, hey, this is this. This is what I'm using it for. This is how I put it on. Check it out. Oh, by the way, this is where I got it.
Mhm.
And our company, the company I work for, we've prided ourselves for a very long time on having a very, very good reputation. And so it's not a hard sell, and we don't have to do a hard sell. And
Mhm.
I think he's genuine. He's
Yeah.
he's very genuine. And that
Mhm.
comes out on YouTube. That comes out on videos. That comes out on sponsorships or affiliates.
Mhm.
If you're not genuine about it, people can tell that you're just trying to sell that,
Mhm.
that whatever you're trying to sell, if you're trying to sell it, it's not going to work out as good
Mhm.
as if you're just if you just talk about it typically.
Hmm. Yeah. And so the company you worked for is product based. So what about the service based side of it? I know you've given me you've been a phenomenal mentor. I put that
Thank
in the
you.
show notes because you've just educated me so much. But for those of us on the service side that don't have widgets or gadgets and we're not shipping and we don't have fulfillment type issues, what is it that we could be doing in our podcast to maybe tap into some of those things that make those kinds of folks more successful?
I think you still have a product. You
Mhm,
still have your service is still a product. You might not be able to put that product in a box, but
mhm.
you still have a product uh, that you're providing to a customer. So I think that's might be one of the first things that you need to kind of look at and
Yeah.
be like, hey, this is a product. Standardize it. Do it the same way every time. Improve on it as you go. And make sure that product is a deliverable that you can see the results from.
Mhm.
um, and yet it's more of a challenge for you as a service, because sometimes maybe that service doesn't, um, you don't have something physical that you can quantify really
Right.
easily
Mhm.
uh, with.
Mhm.
um, did that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's true. I think sometimes we try to separate and make that line so different. I've had guests on here that have been, in the MLM space, and so they've got a very clear formula of how they do things. And then I've had brick and mortar business type owners, and they've got a very clear way of doing things. And I think sometimes for the online entrepreneur who is working, coaches are a great example. They've got launches and they've got passive income opportunities and they've got courses. And so there's sometimes a little bit of all of the above. And I think sometimes when you're thinking about a podcast and how best to structure it or how best to have the right guests on or the right content, that might be a little bit more challenging, like you said, than some of the other ways that people do business.
um, Definitely. And I know
Mhm.
when you talk about, let's see if I can pull it up. Podbean. I'm trying to remember. There was a actual podcast advertising
Yeah, I think it is
website
pod.
that
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
don't know if it is Podbean, or I need to go back and look, and I'll find it for the show notes.
Hmm.
Uh, but that you could go on there and, as an advertiser, say, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody in this, horror movies or video games," and then you could go on and say, "Oh, this is my budget, and this is where I'm looking at. Okay, this person has 150 downloads an episode. He releases an episode every 2 days. That this is what you could find. And if you were looking to have sponsors for your product, that's a good place to start looking
Hmm.
for sponsors, or start looking how other people are getting sponsors.
Hmm.
Uh, for sure on that side.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think some folks are definitely interested in the monetizing part of podcasting. And I actually went to college with someone who has a very successful YouTube channel and does that for a living. And he's one of those channels that has gotten awards, and he employs full time, staff to manage the channel. And then I've got other folks in my space who do it just for hobby and for fun, but and not necessarily in the monetizing. That's not a big area of interest for them, but to know that there's a place that connects everybody would be really really helpful. And the other thing that this might can do is just open up opportunities for a new audience you
Oh yeah.
know
And if you're selling something, I mean, if you're selling, whether it be a product or a service, that audience is your possible customers. And
Yeah.
that's why being able to find that audience and go out there and broadcast to them and convey information and get them to either purchase your product, whether it is purchase your product,
Hmm.
or look at your website, or if you're just using it to generate SEO links, there then it's doing it what its mission is. It's doing what the
Yeah.
job that you wanted it to do. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, and I'm just going to say this is kind of speculation, but I don't think a lot of people have got into podcasting. If you're getting into podcasting specifically to make money from podcasting, good luck.
Yeah.
You know, Good luck to you. I think the people that end up being really, really successful, uh, weren't originally doing it to do the money thing.
Yeah.
And um, I would have to venture the ones that are successful and making money at it, they were probably already successful at what they were doing prior to going into podcasting. I know one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is Amy Porterfield's channel.
Mhm.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever listened to some of
I
her
love her
podcasts,
stuff.
but she's a fantastic marketer, and I've picked up a ton of stuff off listening to her podcast. But she was successful before she was ever doing podcast, and I mean now she's even more successful, but that the podcast just added to it. It wasn't the key
Yeah.
in it. And I talked 2 weeks ago. We're trying to expand our reach into Twitch. I don't know if you're familiar with Twitch at all.
I've heard of it, but I haven't
uh,
tried. I
you know
haven't
i'm
dipped
a
my
I'm a video gamer. I like to play video games, but I can't sit there and watch somebody play video game. That
Yeah.
just does not make a lot of sense to me. But I talked to a possible channel on Twitch the other day as being a possible sponsor for his channel. That's his full-time job. He plays video games and has about 75,000 people watch him an episode, and I was just
Wow.
blown away at that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
his full-time job, and I was like, "Hey," in the conversation, I was like, "Hey, d is it going to work for you at this point?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, it
Yeah.
is."
He's like, "I'm good. I'm good."
Yeah, it
Well,
it is going to work. So,
I had a funny experience just a couple of years ago. I was invited to a career day, so I go and I'm talking to these kids about career day, and I'm talking about being professional and what it took and what a day to day experience is like. And literally, one of the kids goes, "Yeah, that sounds kind of boring. I'm just going to be a YouTuber." And I was
yeah,
like, "Oh, okay, that's an option too." And it absolutely is an option because you don't want to discourage kids because the reality is it is an option for
it
them.
is an option. It is an
Mhm.
option. My girls absolutely love, I can't even think of the name now of it, but there's a YouTube channel that they watch, Ryan's World.
Okay.
Ryan's World, and that kid is like the richest YouTube kid star in the world, like
Yeah, it's possible.
$42 million a year or something. I'm probably off on that by lowball estimate, but I mean it's ridiculous how much that
Wow. Yeah.
his hey, you know what? He's got a short time frame that he's going to be a kid YouTube star, and I hope he makes enough money that he doesn't have to do anything the rest of his life. So,
Yeah, well, what's interesting to me, kinda going back to the core of what a visibility strategy is, and that example that you just gave, it's all about connecting. So, when we're talking about advertising dollars and campaigns and our target audience and our tone and all of these more academic structure of messaging, it all goes back to connecting. And your daughters are connecting to someone because of his authentic self, and he's just messaging it. And
and,
at
and
its core, that's what it is.
and he's playing with toys, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Daddy, Daddy, I want that toy." I'm like, "No, you have enough toys." But Ryan has it. Okay, cool. No,
Good for Ryan.
good for Ryan.
Yeah, that's just phenomenal to me. It's almost like, if we could capture that and put it in a little jar and give it to everyone who is learning all these different marketing strategies, you realize that it's just a simple, simple solution of connecting with people authentically, getting your message across, and then there's a call to action, even if it's a subliminal call to action,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
and engaging with your viewers and engaging with your listeners or your subscribers is key. Talking to we've got Sandy and Chris has commented and Pam, and engaging with your listeners. Maybe getting their feedback, maybe they're getting their comments, going back and
Yeah.
touching that base is very important when it comes to building that relationship, because that's what it is.
Mhm.
Back in the day, we called up radio stations and
We did.
requested songs, you
We
know,
did.
and that was I listened to I drove to Dallas last weekend, and I was up early, and of course the girls had burned up all of our internet, or all of our downloads on YouTube on my phone. So I was stuck listening to the radio for 3 hours. And one of the shows, some people were supposedly calling in and requesting music. I was like, no,
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
really?
No,
This is fake. Nobody calls in and requests music still, but apparently they do, or they're
they
having to
do.
fake it. So,
Yeah, no, they do. It's funny you say that. So, Chris is in radio. Obviously, that's thanks to my, sure mic here. Absolutely, he had to comment on the mic, but he actually made a comment one time to someone in the industry, and he said, "I'm." The truth is, terrestrial radio is just different. We've got satellite radio in the car, and one of the things we love doing on family trips is just getting out there, so far out there when we're cross country, and to listen to that terrestrial radio because it brings back all of the memories of how we used to wait for a song to come on the radio. Now we live in an on-demand culture. If we want to listen to a song and we got satellite radio on, we just put the app on and we get to listen to the song we want on
yep,
demand over and over again if we wanted to.
yep. Let
It's
it
a
go
different way. Yeah.
over and over and over again until we have to say, "Hey, baby, Frozen doesn't work on Daddy's car. Doesn't
See,
work
that's
anymore.
brilliant. That's
Doesn't
absolutely
work
brilliant.
anymore."
Yeah. Well, as we're wrapping up, Chris, is there any other last minute tips you want to give to folks who are thinking about going in this podcast space? I mean, we've talked tech, we've talked about the importance of finding your audience and all the different ways you can monetize or get on the other side of it and connect with podcasters. What other tips do you think people need to know?
YouTube plays a big role in it, definitely. You don't have to have a bunch of expensive software. If you can get a good microphone, all right, the good microphone helps you with editing and the fact that you might not even have to really do anything. Put a
Hmm.
song on the beginning, put a roll in credit, a rollout, and you're good a lot of times. Maybe you might have to tweak some audio from a guest, but that microphone investment will save you a lot of work in the long run. And I highly recommend somebody dump some money into a good mic. Uh,
Yeah.
Most programs that you can get for editing are able, you can use something online, you can download it. I like the Adobe suite. I like Adobe Edition. I do have a subscription, so I have the full Adobe package. So if I need to do video or audio, pictures, whatever I can need to do, I can do it there.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's very important to have the right tools, and they're out there for every budget.
Yeah, and I remember one thing you told me when we were getting started, and that was being consistent. I've never forgotten that. And again, with my husband being in radio, he's always talking about consistency and how important it is to stay on message. So thank you so much, Chris. This has been a fantastic episode.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you for having me on.
Yep. Thank you. All right, guys, we are wrapping up this episode. We were talking podcasts. If you caught the very end of it, then you need to go back and download the podcast so that you can listen to it on demand at your pleasure, or just go back to our YouTube channel and watch the whole thing. Chris did a phenomenal job. These tips were fantastic. Don't be afraid of podcasting. It's fun. You get a chance to be yourself, and you get a chance to talk about the things that you know, that you love, and that you're just on fire about. And when you can connect with other people in that way, you're just going to be super successful. So thank you for tuning into this episode. Make sure you're give us a little bit of love there in the comments so we can up our engagement, and put hashtag replay so Chris and I can go back and comment. With that, I will wrap up, and I will send you lots of positive energy and light.